The bread was still warm when Chijioke gave it away. He hadn't eaten all day. His stomach gnawed at itself with the hunger only a schoolboy knows, the kind that dulls your ears and sharpens your eyes. But when he saw the man, crouched beside the trash heap behind Mama Iai's provision store, something in him shifted. The man wasn't begging. He wasn't even speaking. He just sat with his back against the rusted Coca-Cola sign, legs trembling, eyes half closed. The boy paused, held the bread tighter. His mother's voice rang in his head. "Don't share that lunch with anybody, you hear? You're too kind for your own good." And she was right. Every time he shared, he was left with nothing. But this felt different, so he stepped forward, slowly, bread shaking in his hand. "Uncle, do you want this?" The man didn't speak. He just looked up, and in that moment, his eyes didn't say hunger, they said shame. Chijioke knelt and handed it over. It wasn't much, a slice of yam bread wrapped in yesterday's newspaper, but the man took it like it was gold. "Thank you," the man croaked, voice cracked like a broken radio. "Thank you, Chijioke." He froze. He hadn't said his name. No one around had. He stared, but the man had already looked away, chewing slowly, like each bite had to be earned. Chijioke stood up, confused, quiet, and walked home. He would never forget the way the man said his name, not like a stranger guessing, but like someone remembering. He returned to their one-room home in a reshape compound just before sunset. The usual scent of pepper stew was missing. The kerosene lamp flickered low. His mother, Nkemdilim, sat cross-legged, sewing ripped school uniforms. Her hands were fast, precise, but her eyes were on him. "You didn't eat." "I did," she sniffed. "Don't lie to me, boy. Your sister told me." He looked at the floor. "I gave it to someone." She sighed. Not in anger, but disappointment. That cut deeper. "You have a heart like your father, and it will be your downfall." He didn't respond. He hadn't heard her speak about his father in months. She rubbed her eyes and stood, "Go get water from the tap, before Nepa takes light again." As he stepped out into the humid evening, he saw two things: a lizard dart across the compound wall and a folded paper on their doorstep. No one in the compound admitted to dropping it. No name, no writing, just paper. He opened it. Inside, a black and white photo of a much younger version of the man he'd fed, and beside it, his mother, arm in arm, smiling. The next day, his mother didn't go to the market. She sat silent, the photo in her lap. "I thought he was dead," she whispered. Chijioke leaned against the wall. "Who?" She looked up, her voice dry. "Your father." The world fell quiet. He didn't understand. She had said his father died in Lagos during the petrol riots, before he was even born. She told him there was no grave, that he was a man worth forgetting. But the photo said otherwise. "I was 17. He left when I was pregnant, said he was going to get work in Kano. I never saw him again. I hated him for that." She touched the photo. "And now you tell me he's eating from trash?" He nodded. Silence again. Then she folded the photo, placed it under her wrapper, and stood. "We will not speak of this again." That Sunday, word spread fast. A man had collapsed behind the mosque, emaciated, foaming at the mouth. He was rushed to the community clinic. The nurse who cleaned his wounds found a folded paper in his sock. It read, "If anything happens to me, find the boy named Chijioke. His mother is Nkemdilim. Tell her I never stopped searching for her. Tell her I'm sorry." The nurse, an old woman who'd known Nkem since she was a child, brought the note to the house herself. This time, Nkem didn't speak. She walked barefoot to the clinic with her son, and there he was, the man with the torn shirt, the stranger behind the shop, now on a hospital bed, covered in a faded brown sheet, alive, barely. Nkem looked at him for what felt like an hour. Her hands shook. She sat beside him and whispered something the boy didn't hear. He watched her place her hand on his. The man stirred, and when he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw wasn't her. It was the boy, and this time his voice was clear. "You gave me a piece of bread, son. and it gave me the strength to return to the one thing I ran from. Then he passed out. The machines beeped steadily. Outside, the call to prayer echoed across the rooftops, and in the boy's heart, a question louder than all of it. Why had no one told him the truth? They walked home in silence. Chijioke held the nurse's note tightly in his palm, even though he'd memorized every word. His mother walked ahead, not looking back once. Her stride was faster than usual, not rushed, but deliberate, like she was trying to outrun her thoughts. Back in the house, the heat felt heavier. The air didn't move. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. She just picked up the photo, stared at it, then dropped it in the cooking fire without blinking. "Why?" Chijioke asked finally. She turned sharply. "Why what? Why did he leave you? Why did he leave us?" Her jaw tightened. Not every man who leaves was planning to. Some get swallowed by the world before they can come back. But he's here now. He's not here. He's surviving. She walked to the window, arms crossed. I used to wait by the roadside for him, belly round, eyes wide. People mocked me, called me names. I would defend him, said he would return. She paused. After 3 years, I stopped waiting. Chijioke sat down slowly. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to grow up chasing a ghost." The next morning, they returned to the clinic. The stranger, his father, was awake, weaker, but lucid. The doctor said he had been homeless for years, survived on scraps. He had no ID, no phone, nothing, only the note in his sock. They let them see him for 10 minutes. Chijioke entered first. The man looked up, eyes full of water. "You look like her," he whispered, "but your eyes are mine." He tried to sit up, but winced. Chijioke sat on the edge of the bed. "What happened to you?" He sighed. "Everything. I thought you were dead." "I was, in pieces, and I stayed that way for years." "Why?" He looked past him, as if he saw something far beyond the wall. "I ran from responsibility. I chose escape over love. I thought I had time to fix it later, but later never came." He turned back until a boy gave me bread. The 10 minutes felt like 10 seconds. When Nikem entered, the room changed. She didn't speak at first, just sat, still, guarded. "I don't need you to explain," she said softly. "I buried my anger long ago. I need to explain anyway, for myself." He reached under the pillow, brought out an envelope. Inside, receipts, small ones, some dated as far back as 2008, all from wire transfers. Whenever I could, I sent money, small, through a friend. I didn't know if it reached. I didn't know if you were still there. She looked at the papers. Her hands trembled. "Why not write?" I was ashamed. Every letter I tried to write, I burned. I thought you'd moved on. I did, but not from the pain. Silence. Again. Then finally she touched his hand. Not in forgiveness, not in love, in acknowledgement. By the end of the week, things moved fast. The community elders heard about the reunion. The local church offered a small fundraiser for his care. Even the nurse who found the note donated her salary for his medication. But not everyone was kind. Rumors flew that Nikem had lied to everyone, that the man was a fraud, that it was all a setup. At school, Chijioke heard the whispers. His father came back from the dead to eat their money. They're faking it for donations. He clenched his fists, but he didn't speak. Until one afternoon during break, when a boy grabbed his collar and sneered, "Is it true your father was found in the gutter like a dog?" Chijioke snapped. He shoved the boy so hard he fell on his back. The teachers called his mother. She didn't shout. She just looked at him hard. Never let people define your truth, but never let their words poison you either. He looked down. "I just got tired." "I know," she said. "Me too." 2 weeks later, the man, whose name they now knew as Obina, was discharged, still weak, but walking. He came home with them, not to stay, just to talk, to see, to apologize. He sat in the doorway, on a borrowed stool, looking around the compound. "Some things change," he said, but the way a woman boils water hasn't. Nkem smirked from the fire. You still remember that? He nodded. You always tilt the kettle twice before placing it. She shook her head. That's muscle memory, not magic. He turned to Chijioke. I won't ask you to forgive me. I won't ask you to call me anything, but I want to be near, even if just from a distance. Chijioke nodded. I don't know how to feel. You don't have to, Obinwa said. Just feel. That's a start. That night, a stranger knocked at their door. A tall man in a crisp kaftan, gold ring, leather folder in hand. He introduced himself as Barrister Kolapo, said he'd been searching for Obinwa for over 5 years. Your father, he told Chijioke, is the legal heir to a plot of land in Oweri, prime estate. His uncle passed recently. No children, no wife. Left a will. Obinwa sat in stunned silence. The lawyer handed him a copy. The land was valued at over 42 million naira. Silence gripped the room like thunder. Chijioke looked at his father, the same man who'd been eating bread behind a dumpster days ago. The man who was now rich. No, Obinwa whispered. The lawyer blinked. Sir, I don't want it. What? I don't deserve it. Chijioke stood. But that land could change everything for us. I know, Obinwa said quietly, and maybe that's the problem. Nkem stared at him, her face unreadable. Do you even understand what you are saying? She asked. Yes, he replied, but let me think. That night, Obinwa didn't sleep. Neither did Chijioke. By dawn, Obinwa had made a decision. He stood outside, facing the early mist. I want you to have the land, he told Chijioke, but on one condition. The boy looked up. You must promise me, truly, that you won't let money change who you are. You gave bread without knowing it would come back to you. That is the heart I want to protect. Chijioke's throat tightened. I promise. Obinwa nodded. And for the first time, father and son embraced, not as strangers, but as something fragile, trying to become whole. The first thing they did was visit the land. It wasn't just any land. Thick with palm trees, soft red earth, fenced, though partially crumbling. The soil smelled of old rain and waiting. They stood there, Obinwa, Nkemdilim, and Chijioke, staring at the space that could rewrite everything. This could be a school, Nkem whispered. Chijioke turned to her. A school? For children, like you, like I was, with no one to speak for them, no lunch, no father. Obinwa nodded slowly. It would be the first thing I've built that didn't end in running away. The paperwork took time. Meetings with the lawyer, visits to local authorities, proof of identity which wasn't easy for a man who'd lived without one for over a decade. But slowly, like a house built with cracked hands, things came together. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the skyline, Obinwa handed Chijioke a folded envelope. He said, Go deliver this to the pastor. There's money inside, for the church roof repairs. Chijioke took it without question and left. But on the way, he paused. It wasn't the first envelope he had carried, but this one felt different. He opened it. Inside wasn't just money, it was a photo of Obinwa, younger, standing next to a woman who wasn't Nkem. Behind the photo, a note. Tell him the truth, if I don't make it. Chijioke's hands went cold. He returned home, envelope unopened. That night, he sat outside alone. The neighborhood generator buzzed low. From somewhere, the faint sound of a woman singing drifted through the air. He waited for his father to come out, to say something, to explain, but he didn't. So Chijioke walked back inside, quietly, opened the envelope again. This time, he read the rest of the note. The land, it wasn't just left to me. I took it. From her. From the woman I was with after Nkem. She bore me a daughter. I left them too. I heard they both died. No funeral, no family claimed them. I ran again. I have failed more than I have loved. If he knows, he must choose what to do with that knowledge. Chijioke didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. Was this what it meant to inherit something? Not just property, but pain? The next day, he confronted Obinwa. In the backyard, beneath the avocado tree. You had a daughter? Obinwa's face collapsed, like a building whose foundations had rotted from within. "Yes," he whispered. "You said you sent money to Mama, but you never sent anything to them?" Obinwa looked at his hands. "I was already drowning when I met her. She thought she could fix me. I thought I could pretend. And when she got pregnant, I left." "Why?" "Because I didn't know how to stay." Silence.
"They died, Baba. Alone." Obinna nodded slowly. "I know." His voice cracked. "I know." Chijiok didn't speak to him for days. He didn't eat much, didn't smile, didn't write in his notebook, the one he always scribbled dreams in. He watched his mother work, watched her sew, sell groundnut by the roadside, laugh with the neighbor women, cook on the firewood stove, despite the gas cylinder sitting unused. "How do you do it?" he finally asked her one night. "Do what?" "Live with betrayal, again and again." She stirred the pot of agouti without looking up. "Because anger is a meal that never satisfies. You eat it, and you're still hungry." He leaned against the wall. "I think I hate him. I did too, but not forever." She tasted the soup, nodded. "Life is long. Regret is longer." A week later, Obinna packed his small bag. Only 2 shirts, a Bible with half the pages missing, and a brown envelope with legal documents. "I'm going to Enugu," he said. "Why?" Ngalam asked, startled. "There's an orphanage near the market square. I heard they need someone to fix the roof. I have hands. I can start there." Chijiok stared. "You're leaving?" Obinna looked down. "You don't need a man like me building your foundation. But you're my father." "I am, and that's why I must leave. Not to run, to rebuild." He turned to Ngalam. "May I write?" She nodded, but didn't speak. As he reached the door, Chijiok finally stepped forward, handed him the photo and the note. Obinna stared at it for a long time. His hands trembled. "Thank you," he said, "for not burning this." Chijiok didn't smile. He just said, "Come back when you're a man I can look up to." Obinna swallowed hard. "I will." Then he stepped out into the street just as the rain began to fall. Not a storm, just a cleansing. 3 months passed. The land remained untouched. People asked, "What are they building?" And Ngalam always answered the same way, "Something better." Then, one morning, a letter came, addressed to "My son, Chijiok." Inside, "I fix roofs by day and sweep floors by night. I earn 2,000 naira a week, and I've never been prouder. There's a girl here named Ifeoma. She's 11. Reminds me of you. Eyes too smart for her age. I teach her to read. I have nothing, but I'm finally whole. I will return, not as a father, not as a man with land or shame, but as someone who knows how to stay. At the bottom, I love you, and I'm sorry." Chijiok folded the letter slowly. He didn't cry, but something in his chest loosened, like a tight knot finally giving way. And as he stepped onto the plot of land with his mother, measuring tape in hand, they began to build. Not for wealth, not for glory, but for healing. The first wall went up in silence. Not a ceremony, not a ribbon, just Chijiok, his mother, and 2 hired masons who spoke little and worked fast. It was made of hollow blocks, uneven in shape, solid in purpose. No one quite knew what it would become. A school, a shelter, a library, maybe all 3. They called it Ulo Nchita, the House of Remembering, because the future deserved a place to carry the past. By the 2nd month, volunteers arrived. First, the old teacher from Chijiok's school, the one who used to beat boys for forgetting their times tables. Then the carpenter whose shop had burned last year. Then 2 widows who brought food. Then teenagers from the next compound, just to watch, just to help. Even the boy who had once mocked Chijiok for having a gutter father showed up with cement. "I heard you were building something real," he muttered. "Not just walls." Chijiok didn't say anything. He just handed him a shovel. And they built, side by side, brick by brick. In December, on the day of the official opening, the
the whole town gathered. Children in uniforms that didn't match, women in wrappers with headscarves like crowns, old men with walking sticks and stories to tell. Even the imam from the mosque stood next to the pastor, both nodding as if they'd rehearsed it. And Gellam stood at the front gate, eyes wet but proud. She wore the same wrapper she had worn the day Chijioke went to school, faded now, but still stitched with sun and dignity. When she took the microphone, her voice trembled. This building is not a monument to one man or one child. It is a reminder that sometimes the greatest blessings arrive looking like shame, like hunger, like strangers. She looked at her son. Sometimes what we give away returns not as food, but as future. They cut the ribbon. Children rushed in. Books, desks, a chalkboard donated by a teacher who hadn't been paid in months. On the wall, framed in simple wood, hung a photo, a boy kneeling before a man offering bread. Beside it, a quote, "Do not ask what a child owns. Ask what a child has given." That night, after the crowd had gone and the compound was lit only by lanterns and laughter, Obinna sat beside Chijioke on the porch. They didn't speak for a while. The stars blinked above, indifferent. "I never thought I'd be proud of myself again," Obinna said finally. Chijioke leaned back. "I never thought I'd understand you." Obinna turned to him. "Do you?" Chijioke shrugged. "Not completely, but I think understanding isn't the point." "What is then?" "Showing up, staying." Obinna nodded. "I'm learning." "You're late," Chijioke said, then paused. "But you came." They both laughed, and it wasn't bitter. It was real. 2 weeks later, they got a letter, stamped from Lagos, official looking. It was from a foundation. They had seen photos of the project on social media. Someone had shared the story, the lunch, the land, the man, the school. The foundation wanted to sponsor expansion, classrooms, toilets, solar panels, even scholarships for the brightest children. They wanted to name it after the founder of the land. Obinna declined. He requested it be named after the boy instead, the boy who gave his only lunch to a stranger and unknowingly fed 1,000 futures. And so, it was written. The Chijioke Center for Learning and Dignity. Years later, that building would expand into 3 wings. One of the children who sat on the first desk would become a doctor. Another, the one with torn sandals and a stammer, would become a radio presenter. And one girl, who used to sell sachet water by the market, would become a lawyer fighting for street kids across the region. But none of them ever forgot how it began. Not with a grant, not with a campaign, with one boy, one piece of bread, and a stranger who, against all odds, returned. And to this day, people in that small Nigerian town still say, if you ever doubt the power of kindness, ask Chijioke what happened the day he gave away his only lunch.